Hey, today I'm going to recap the horror mystery movie called Saw X. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with John Kramer receiving medical treatment for his cancer. He participates in a support group and receives advice from his doctor to end his professional career, as he is estimated to have only about a year left to live. John observes a custodian rummaging through the possessions of an elderly patient. Subsequently, he conceives a scheme for the custodian, involving two vacuum devices affixed to his eyes and another contraption on his right hand linked to his fingers. The custodian is compelled to prevent the trap from extracting his eyes, but every action he takes results in the breakage of one of his fingers. Eventually, it seems as though he resigns himself to the ordeal, and his eyes are subjected to the vacuum. In actuality, the custodian notices John observing him, causing him to abandon his actions and refrain from interfering with the patient's belongings. Subsequently, John encounters an individual named Henry Kessler, who is also part of his support group. Previously, Henry had claimed to have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. However, he reveals a surgical scar to John and shares that he underwent an experimental treatment that successfully eliminated his illness. Henry proceeds to provide John with information about Dr. Finn Peterson, the medical professional responsible for pioneering the procedure. Later, John establishes contact with Dr. Peterson's daughter, Cecilia, who directs him to a clinic that has been established in Mexico. John embarks on a journey to Mexico and encounters a taxi driver named Diego. During his ride, a van intercepts the taxi, and two armed individuals compel John to exit the vehicle. John discloses his identity to them, and they escort him to a clinic situated within an expansive mansion. Inside the clinic, he comes across a young lady named Gabriela, who asserts that she has been cured through Cecilia's medical treatment. Subsequently, John has a face-to-face meeting with Cecilia, who provides him with an overview of the surgical procedure. She introduces John to her associates, Mateo and Valentina. On the evening prior to the operation, John awakens in the middle of the night and notices a young neighbor named Carlos attempting to repair his bicycle. John lends a hand and engages warmly with the boy. Subsequently, John undergoes the procedure as explained by Cecilia, who mentions that he may experience periods of consciousness fluctuating. The surgery seems to be effective, and John informs Cecilia that he will provide her with the remaining payment at a later time. Before his departure, John makes a detour to a liquor store to purchase a bottle of tequila, intending it as a token of appreciation for Gabriela. Upon his return to the clinic, he discovers it completely deserted. He proceeds to the room where the surgery was supposed to have occurred, only to uncover proof that the group had deceived him, absconded with his money, and had never actually conducted the operation. Frustrated and incensed, he shatters the bottle and initiates contact with one of his connections. As he commences devising a plan for retribution, John tracks down Diego, who had been masquerading as the surgeon responsible for the surgery. He places Diego in a precarious situation, where he is compelled to extract two pipe bombs that have been intricately attached to his arms. With great reluctance, Diego commences the agonizing process of cutting into his own flesh, ultimately managing to remove the bombs before they explode, thus ensuring his survival. John expresses his approval and proceeds to extract the remaining information he requires from Diego. Apart from their fraudulent activities, Valentina is involved in sex work and attempts to deceive a man for money. In a harrowing encounter, she narrowly escapes a potential assault, but her savior, Amanda Young, donning her pig mask, intervenes to incapacitate the assailant and abduct Valentina. Meanwhile, Gabriela is portrayed as struggling with substance abuse, with Mateo serving as her supplier. Both of them are incapacitated and taken captive. Lastly, Cecilia resides in her home and notices an intruder on her rooftop through her security cameras. Despite her efforts to flee, she is eventually apprehended as well. The four fraudulent individuals regain consciousness, finding themselves restrained in a room. John and Amanda emerge to hold them accountable for their deceitful operation, which has victimized numerous terminally ill individuals, leaving them with nothing. Cecilia attempts to disassociate herself from their actions by insinuating that John's case was an exception, but he remains unconvinced of her sincerity. Subsequently, John initiates his retribution plan. Valentina finds herself ensnared in a grim situation where a wire saw is positioned perilously close to her neck. Adjacent to her, there's a box containing a giggly saw. She receives instructions to amputate her own right leg and harvest enough bone marrow to secure her release. With a 3-minute deadline looming, Valentina resolutely starts sawing through her leg, enduring excruciating pain. She diligently extracts her marrow, but regrettably, the container fails to fill up in time, resulting in her decapitation. The remaining trio becomes aware of a phone situated on a cart, positioned at the center of the room. To reach the phone, Cecilia resorts to cutting into Valentina's lifeless body, extracting her intestines to serve as a makeshift rope for pulling the cart closer. However, when Cecilia endeavors to call for assistance, Amanda intervenes by striking her and seizing the phone. Outside the room, Parker Sears, a previous victim John had encountered following an earlier fraudulent operation, arrives, brandishing a gun as he demands Cecilia to return his money. Amanda swiftly incapacitates him and seizes the firearm. John elucidates that he can assist Parker in retrieving his funds, provided that he adheres to their terms and conditions. Although John's preference was for Gabriella to be the next victim, Amanda's compassion is swayed by Gabriella's shared history as a recovering drug addict. Consequently, Matteo becomes the next individual to face a gruesome challenge. In this ordeal, he is compelled to excise brain matter from his own head and immerse it into a jar filled with enzymes. Only when the matter has fully dissolved will a key be released to unlock his restraints. Despite enduring excruciating pain, Matteo attempts to fulfill his gruesome task. Regrettably, he also fails to meet the required time limit, resulting in a mask clamping down on his head, leading to his agonizing demise by burning. Gabriella's ordeal is the next in line. Suspended from the ceiling by a single arm and leg, she faces a dire ultimatum. She must wield a sledgehammer to shatter her own limbs in order to secure her release, or face the gruesome fate of being consumed by a radiation machine. Gabriella, albeit with great reluctance, proceeds to shatter the bones in her hand and foot, ultimately gaining her freedom but enduring severe burns to her face. John and Amanda liberate Parker before turning their attention to Cecilia, but it's an unfortunate revelation that they've been deceived by a clever ruse. Parker is, in fact, working in collusion with Cecilia and is her romantic partner. Cecilia had summoned him using the phone as a ploy to orchestrate her rescue. Parker, wielding a firearm, coerces John and Amanda into securing themselves with chains. When John implores that Gabriella requires urgent medical attention, Cecilia, displaying a chilling ruthlessness, steps on Gabriella's neck, breaking it, asserting that she is unwilling to leave any loose ends. She also astutely observes that she had recognized John as the notorious Jigsaw, finding it ironic that a serial killer is seeking to administer justice against her. Outside, the sound of Carlos playing soccer catches Cecilia's attention. She brings Carlos inside and compels him to be secured on a seesaw-like trap alongside John, but John discreetly advises Carlos in Spanish not to activate the lever. With cruel intent, Cecilia and Parker set the trap in motion, subjecting John and Carlos to a harrowing ordeal involving blood. John opts to pull his lever to prevent the blood from engulfing him entirely. Meanwhile, Cecilia and Parker return to the office to retrieve their ill-gotten gains. However, when Cecilia tugs on a bag supposedly containing the money, a timer with a 10-minute countdown is triggered, and the ominous tune of "Hello Zep" starts playing. Simultaneously, John and Carlos's trap is deactivated. Through a series of flashbacks, it becomes evident that John had been fully aware of Parker's involvement in the scam, and he and Amanda had prepared for his eventual arrival and actions. When the bag is opened, it reveals documents detailing withdrawals from Cecilia's accounts. Simultaneously, a lethal poison gas begins filling the room, imprisoning Cecilia and Parker. They both struggle for a breath of fresh air, with the corrosive gas burning their skin. In desperation, Cecilia resorts to fatally stabbing Parker to ensure her survival, an outcome that John and Amanda had forewarned Parker about. Cecilia manages to protrude her head outside the room just as the countdown reaches its conclusion. She survives, but she can only call out to John in vain, as she remains locked in the room with no means to summon help. Subsequently, John hands over all the money they've retrieved from Cecilia's fraudulent operation to Carlos. As morning breaks, John and Amanda lead Carlos out of the location. During the credits, a scene unfolds in which John, aided by Detective Mark Hoffman, has successfully located Henry. Suspicion had arisen as Henry no longer displays the fake surgical scar. John confronts Henry with the chilling words, "I want to play a game," and initiates a gruesome contraption designed to incise into Henry's abdomen. Trapped in terror, Henry can do nothing but scream. Don't forget to support me with the like and subscribe buttons. Stay tuned for more film recaps.